What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today, we're going to be looking at part one of the Rick Nash trade. Now, this occurred back on July 23rd, 2012, and was the swapping of 7 assets between the New York Rangers and the Columbus Blue Jackets. So basically, at this point in time, the Blue Jackets were looking to rebuild. Their GM had stated that they'd be willing to trade any player, which included franchise player Rick Nash. The New York Rangers made a phone call, and they made an offer that the Blue Jackets loved. So how'd this trade work out? We'll start by looking at the New York Rangers, who got 3 assets, the first of whom was left wing Rick Nash. Now, Nash had a successful first year as a Ranger, as he would score 21 goals with 21 assists over 44 games in the lockout-shortened season. Now, unfortunately, he would suffer a concussion early on in the 13-14 season, which forced him to miss 17 games. Now, despite the concussion, he was still good, scoring 26 goals and adding out 13 assists. He had a rough postseason appearance for the Rangers, though, as he would only score 3 goals with 7 assists over 25 games as the team made their way to the Stanley Cup Finals, but they would lose. Now, the 2014-15 season was Rick Nash at his absolute best, as he would score a career-high 42 goals to go with 27 assists. Now, in the 19-game playoff stint that the Rangers had, he would score 5 goals with 9 assists, so he did improve a little bit, but the team did not make it back to the Stanley Cup Final. Unfortunately for him, injuries struck once more in the 15-16 season, as he missed a chunk of time due to muscle spasms. He would score 15 goals with 21 assists, though, so he wasn't bad, it was clear the muscle spasms were bothering him. Now, he would play decently once more in the 16-17 season, scoring 23 goals. And then through 60 games in the 17-18 season, Nash would score 18 goals with 10 assists. Now, he would be traded because at this point in time, the Rangers were the ones entering a rebuild, and this trade will get its own video due to the magnitude of it. It has a lot of moving parts, so it just made sense to split them up from part 1 to part 2. That will be linked in the description once it comes out in the future. Now, as a Ranger, he was a one-time All-Star. The Rangers got 2 more assets in this trade, the next of whom was defenseman Steven Delisle. Now, Delisle would spend 1 year in the minors, with most of it being spent in the ECHL. Now, he would be traded after a single year in the minors, and this will be discussed as part of the Marian Gaborik trade, which will be in the future and will be linked once it is out. Now, the last asset that the Rangers got was a 2013 third-round pick. This would become the 75th overall and would be used to select left wing Pavel Buchnevich. Now, Buchnevich would make his NHL debut during the 16-17 season as a bottom 6 forward, so he didn't play all that much. Now, he was also limited due to back spasms, appearing in 41 games. He would see his role increase for the 17-18 season, as he would score 14 goals with 29 assists. Now, during the 18-19 season, he would bounce around the lineup a bit, but he played well, scoring 21 goals. Now, the 19-20 season kind of saw him fall in the coach's doghouse, as he was a healthy scratch at times. But he ended up rebounding and playing well in the 21 season, scoring 20 goals to go with 28 assists. Now, after that season, he would be traded, and this will get its own video in the future just because it was a pretty sizable trade. So, yeah, this trade is going to keep on giving for the Rangers. So that's how the Rangers did, at least for part 1. How did the Columbus Blue Jackets do? So we'll start off with them getting left wing Artem Anisimov. Now, Anisimov had an injury-plagued first year with the Blue Jackets, as he would score 11 goals with 7 assists in 35 games in the lockout-shortened season. He would play well in the 13-14 season, though, as he scored a career-high 22 goals with 17 assists. However, the 14-15 season was another injury-prone one, as a concussion and a triceps injury limited him to only 52 games, and zapped his effectiveness as well. He would score only 7 goals that year. Now, he would be traded away, and this was discussed in the Jeff Carter trade, which will be linked in the description below. Next, we have center Brandon Dubinsky. Now, Dubinsky continued to be a strong, defensive-minded forward. Now, after being a bit of a non-factor in his first season, Dubinsky managed to score 16 goals with 34 assists, while adding a very impressive 234 hits. Now, he would miss some time in the 14-15 season, but he still scored 13 goals with 23 assists, and he had a decent year offensively in the 15-16 campaign, scoring 17 goals and managing another very impressive stat line of 235 hits. Now, he would play very well in the 16-17 season, scoring 12 goals, adding 29 assists, and 248 hits. Now, he was the alternate captain originally, but he was stripped of this role in October of 2017 as the team coach, John Tortorella, claimed that he, quote, wanted to alleviate the stress of being a captain, end quote, for Dubinsky. Dubinsky definitely was upset about this move, and it showed. Now, his offensive stats took a hit starting in the 17-18 season. He still managed to get 145 hits, but he clearly was not happy in Columbus anymore. He had a very similar year in the 18-19 season, and then the team just decided to let him go because he clearly wasn't happy to be there. Next, we have defenseman Tim Eriksen. Now, Eriksen got 5 assists with 35 blocked shots in his first year as a Blue Jacket. He would spend the majority of the next year in the AHL, and then in the 14-15 season, he would score a goal while adding 5 assists before he was traded away. Now, this was discussed in the Phil Kessel trade, Part 1, which will also be linked in the description below. Lastly, we have a 2013 first-round pick going to Columbus from New York. This pick would become the 19th overall selection and would be used to select left wing Kirby Reichel. Now, Reichel would spend most of the 14-15 season in the AHL, although he did appear in 5 NHL games, and he did pretty good for himself, registering 3 assists. Now, he would request a trade during the 15-16 campaign due to a lack of playing time, but it was denied. He would appear in 32 games, scoring a pair of goals with 7 assists, both career highs. Now, he would also be traded after the season, and this was looked at in the Phil Kessel trade Part 1, which, as mentioned with Tim Eriksen, will be linked in the description below. Now, I realize that this trade has a lot of trades linked to it. 5 trades linked to this trade. So it's a big number. I mean, of the 7 players involved, 7 assets involved, 6 of them were traded away. But I just felt that it just made sense to split them all up just because of the magnitude of everything. Anyways, this was the first part of the Rick Nash trade. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a good rest of your day.